She was 8 months pregnant when the process server walked into her baby shower. 30 guests watched in horror as Margot opened the envelope. Divorce papers, custody demands, a declaration calling her mentally unfit to be a mother. Her billionaire husband, Preston, stood in the doorway, smiling, his mistress on his arm. "I thought this would be easier than a conversation, sweetheart," he said. "You know how you get." He had frozen her bank accounts, hired the most expensive lawyers in the state, paid psychiatrists to declare her insane. He thought he had won. But Preston made one fatal mistake. In 7 years of marriage, he never once asked about his wife's education. He never knew she graduated first in her class from Harvard Law School. When Margot walked into that courtroom alone, 8 months pregnant, carrying her own evidence boxes, Preston laughed out loud. "This should be entertaining," he said. He had no idea what was coming. What happened next left the judge speechless, the gallery gasping, and Preston's entire empire crumbling around him. This is the story of a woman who was told she was nothing, who believed it for 7 years, and who proved everyone wrong in the most satisfying way possible. Stay with me until the end, because the moment the judge reveals the truth will give you chills. Lesson and value statement. Before we begin, here is what this story will teach you. Your silence is never consent. Your kindness is never weakness. And the person you were, before the world tried to change you, is still inside, waiting for you to remember. This story is for every woman who has ever been underestimated. Every woman who gave up pieces of herself for someone who never deserved them. Every woman who is ready to fight back. Now, let the story begin. The process server wore a pink bow in her hair. Margot thought she was another guest. The afternoon sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Whitmore estate. Crystal champagne flutes clinked together like wind chimes. 30 women in pastel dresses moved through the grand living room. Their laughter floated above the string quartet, playing softly in the corner. Margot Whitmore stood near the towering display of gifts. Her hand rested on her belly. 8 months pregnant. The baby kicked against her palm. She smiled and accepted another round of congratulations from women she barely knew. "You must be so excited," said a woman in lavender. Her name was something with a C. Candace, Camille. Margot could not remember. "I am," Margot replied. "We both are." The lie tasted familiar, like all the other lies she had told for 7 years. Preston had texted 2 hours ago. 15 minutes late, he wrote. Something came up at the office. She had learned long ago that 15 minutes meant an hour. An hour meant he might not come at all. Today was her baby shower. Today he would come. She was almost certain. The string quartet shifted to a softer melody. Margot recognized it. Their wedding song. She wondered if her mother-in-law Vivian had requested it deliberately. A reminder of promises made, vows spoken. The weight of the Whitmore name. "Mrs. Whitmore?" A young woman appeared at her elbow. She wore the catering uniform, but held no tray. A pink bow sat perfectly in her dark hair. "I have something for you?" Margot smiled. "Thank you. You can put it with the other gifts." "It's not that kind of delivery." The woman held out a manila envelope. "You've been served." The string quartet kept playing. The champagne kept flowing. The women in pastels kept chattering. But for Margot, everything stopped. She took the envelope. Her fingers felt numb. She opened it slowly. The paper inside was thick. Legal paper. Official paper. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The words blurred. She blinked. Read them again. Petition for full custody of minor child. Her hands began to shake. The baby kicked again. Harder this time. Declaration of mental instability. Someone nearby laughed at a joke. The sound seemed to come from very far away. Margot's eyes moved down the page. Legal language, cold phrases. Respondent has demonstrated erratic behavior, inconsistent with capable motherhood. She read that line 3 times. Each time, the words cut deeper. Margot, dear. Vivian's voice. Close now. Is everything all right? Margot looked up. Her mother-in-law stood 5 feet away. Her silver hair was perfect. Her cream-colored suit was immaculate. Her expression held no surprise. Margot understood then. Vivian had known. Vivian had always known. You signed this, Margot said. Her voice did not sound like her own. You witnessed it. You signed your name right here. The room grew quieter. Heads turned. The string quartet played on, but the women had stopped talking. They sensed blood in the water. Vivian lifted her chin. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. You signed it. Margot's voice rose. At my baby shower. In your house. You helped him serve me divorce papers at my own baby shower. Margot folded the papers. Once, twice, 3 times, as if making them smaller could make them untrue. The front door opened. Preston walked in. His charcoal suit was perfectly pressed. His dark hair was perfectly styled. He was not alone. Genevieve Aldrich walked beside him. His executive assistant, 29 years old, blonde, beautiful. Her hand rested on his arm in a way that said everything. The room went completely silent. Even the string quartet stopped. Preston surveyed the scene. His wife. The papers in her hands, the 30 witnesses. He did not look ashamed. He looked inconvenienced. I thought this would be easier than a conversation, sweetheart, he said. His voice was calm, reasonable. The voice he used in boardrooms, when crushing competitors. You know how you get. The baby kicked again. Margot pressed her hand against her belly. She tried to breathe. The air felt thick, heavy. How I get, she repeated. Emotional, Preston said. Irrational. The doctors have documented it. Your hormones are all over the place. It's not your fault, but it does affect your judgment. Margot stared at him. 7 years. 7 years of marriage. 7 years of putting his needs first. 7 years of becoming smaller so he could feel bigger. And this was how it ended. You planned this, she said. I planned for a smooth transition. Preston walked closer. His shoes clicked against the marble floor. The baby will be born in a stable environment. You'll have visitation. It's all very fair. Fair? The word came out like a laugh, like a sob. Guinea stood near the door. She had not moved. She watched with the careful attention of someone who had rehearsed this moment. Margot's gaze shifted from her husband to his mistress. Ginny wore Margot's favorite perfume. The same scent Margot had worn on her wedding day. The same scent she had stopped wearing because Preston said it gave him headaches. He had never had headaches. He had just wanted to erase her, piece by piece. I want everyone out, Margot said. Her voice was steady now, dangerously steady. Now. The women in pastels scattered like birds. They gathered their purses. They whispered to each other. They would talk about this for years. The Whitmore baby shower. The scandal of the season. Vivian remained. Preston remained. Jenny remained. You're making a scene, Vivian said. Your son just served me divorce papers at my baby shower, Margot replied. The scene was already made. She looked at the papers still clutched in her hands. The folds were sharp now, crisp edges. Like everything about her life, with Preston. Neat on the surface, cruel underneath. The baby kicked a 3rd time. Margot whispered without thinking. I know. Preston exchanged a glance with his mother. A look that said, see what I mean. Margot caught it. She understood now. Everything she did would be used against her. Every emotion, every reaction, every desperate attempt to protect herself and her child. The game had been rigged from the start. She straightened her spine, 8 months pregnant, standing in a room full of expensive flowers and abandoned champagne. Her marriage ending with an audience, but her hands had stopped shaking. "Get out of my house," Vivian said. Margot almost laughed. Her house. The house where Margot had lived for 5 years. The house where she had planned a nursery. The house where she had imagined raising her daughter. "Actually," Preston said, "the property is in my name, as is everything else. You'll find the details in the filing. Your accounts have been frozen, pending the proceedings." Margot looked at him, really looked at him. The man she had married, the man she had loved, the man she had given everything for. He looked back at her with the same expression he wore when reviewing quarterly reports. Mild interest. Complete detachment. "I built a life with you," she said. "You lived in a life I built," Preston replied. "There's a difference." The string quartet began packing up their instruments. The caterers cleared the abandoned glasses. Somewhere in the house, a door closed. The guests were gone. The party was over. Margot walked toward the door. Her feet felt heavy. Each step was an effort. She passed Preston without looking at him. She passed Jenny without acknowledgement. She passed Vivian without a word. At the door, she stopped, turned back. "I'm going to remember this moment," she said. "Every detail, the pink bow, the champagne, the look on your face when you thought you had won." Preston smiled. The smile that had once made her feel chosen, now she saw it clearly. It was the smile of a man who had never lost anything in his life. "Goodbye, Margot," he said. "My lawyer will be in touch." She walked out into the afternoon sun. The door closed behind her. The Whitmore estate stood at her back, grand, beautiful. A prison she had not recognized until the bars became visible. Her car was in the driveway, a gift from Preston for their 5th anniversary. It was in his name, too. Everything was in his name. She got in anyway, started the engine, pulled away from the house where her marriage had ended. In the rearview mirror, the estate grew smaller. Her hands gripped the steering wheel. Her belly pressed against it. The baby kicked again. "I know," Margot whispered. "I'm scared too." She drove until the house disappeared from view. Then she pulled over to the side of the road, turned off the engine, and sat in the silence. The papers were still in her lap. She unfolded them, read them again, every word, every clause, every carefully crafted attack on her character, her stability, her fitness as a mother. She had been so stupid. The signs had been everywhere. The late nights, the canceled dinners, the way he looked at his phone instead of her, the way he stopped touching her belly when the baby kicked. She had seen it all. She had explained it all away. Margot pressed her forehead against the steering wheel. She did not cry. The tears would not come. Something deeper than sadness had taken hold, something that felt like the ground opening beneath her feet. Her phone buzzed. A text from Darcy, her best friend, her only real friend. "I heard. I'm bringing wine. You can smell it. I'll drink it. Be there in 10. Where are you?" Margot stared at the message. Darcy had heard. Of course she had. Everyone had heard by now. She typed back her location. Then she sat and waited. The sun was still shining. The birds were still singing. The world kept spinning as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Everything. Darcy's car pulled up behind Margot's 20 minutes later. Not 10. Traffic, she would say. Or she had stopped to buy wine. Or she had needed a moment to compose herself before facing her friend's wreckage. Margot did not care about the delay. Time had stopped meaning anything. Darcy opened the passenger door of Margot's car and climbed in. She was still wearing her scrubs from the hospital. Her red hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She carried a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. "I know you can't drink. Darcy said. But I can, and you need to smell something that isn't betrayal. She poured herself a glass, held it under Margot's nose. The rich scent of Cabernet filled the car. Breathe, Darcy commanded. Margot breathed. Again. Margot breathed again. Good. Darcy took a long sip. Now tell me everything. Margot handed her the papers. Darcy read them in silence. Her expression shifted from shock to anger to something that looked like guilt. The guilt worried Margot most of all. You knew, Margot said. Darcy set down her wineglass. Her hands were shaking slightly. I suspected. That's different. How long? Margot, do not do this to yourself. How long, Darcy? Darcy closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were wet. I saw them together at a restaurant. 8 months ago. I thought maybe it was business. I wanted to believe it was business. I told myself I would watch. I would be sure before I destroyed your life. 8 months ago, Margot's voice was flat. That's when I found out I was pregnant. I know. That's when he started being nicer to me. More attentive. He bought me flowers. He talked about the baby all the time. I know. Margot checked her phone. Locked it. Unlocked it. Locked it. Unlocked it. As if the next time she looked, the messages would say something different. They never did. Why didn't you tell me? Margot asked. Darcy wiped her eyes. Because I was a coward. Because I saw how happy you were about the baby. Because I thought maybe I was wrong. Because I was a terrible friend. You're my only friend. I know. That makes it worse. They sat in silence. Outside, cars passed on the road. Normal people going about their normal lives. Margot wondered if she would ever feel normal again. It goes back further, she said finally. The affair. It's not 8 months. It's 2 years. Darcy's head snapped toward her. How do you know that? I found emails on his computer. He thought I didn't know the password. Margot laughed. A bitter sound. Our wedding anniversary. He never could remember the actual date, so he used it for everything. She had found so much more than emails, but she could not think about that yet. The pregnancy was strategic. Those words burned in her mind like a brand. Everyone knew, Margot continued. Your reaction tells me that. Everyone except me. His mother knew. She signed the divorce papers as a witness. She must have been planning this for months. Darcy finished her wine, poured another glass. What are you going to do? I don't know. He's frozen all the accounts. The house is in his name, the cars, everything. You can stay with me. In your 1-bedroom apartment? The couch is comfortable. I've slept on it when I'm too tired to make it to bed. Margot smiled despite everything. The first real smile since the pink bow. Thank you. Don't thank me. I should have told you. I should have told you months ago. They sat together as the sun began to set. The light turned golden, then orange, then pink. Margot watched it change and felt nothing. I need to go to the house, she said. I need to get some things. Is that a good idea? Probably not. But my grandmother's ring is there, my passport. Some things I'm not leaving behind. Darcy nodded. I'm coming with you. No, I need to do this alone. Margot. I need to face him without backup. Just once. I need to know I can. Darcy did not argue. She understood. Margot needed to test herself, to see what she was made of. Everything that came after would depend on this moment. They drove back to the Whitmore estate separately. Darcy parked on the street. Margot pulled into the circular driveway. The house looked different now. The same grand columns. The same manicured gardens. But Margot saw it clearly for the first time. A fortress, not a home. She let herself in with her key. It still worked. A small mercy. The foyer was empty. The baby shower decorations had been cleared away. No sign remained of the afternoon's disaster, just polished marble and fresh flowers and the faint scent of expensive candles. Margot climbed the stairs to the bedroom she had shared with Preston. Their bedroom, she corrected herself. His bedroom now. Her closet was untouched. Her clothes hung in neat rows. Her jewelry sat in velvet boxes, but the space felt violated. Every drawer might have been searched. Every item might have been photographed for evidence. She moved quickly. Grandmother's ring, in the back of the jewelry box. Still there, she slipped it onto her finger. The weight was familiar, comforting. Her passport, in the nightstand drawer, still valid. She found a suitcase, began packing, not everything, just essentials. Things that belonged to her before she became Mrs. Whitmore. Then she went to Preston's office. The door was unlocked. He had grown careless, or he did not think she would dare. She sat at his computer, typed their anniversary. July 15th. The screen unlocked. The email chain was exactly where she had found it before, but now she read more carefully. 8 months of correspondence with Mitchell Crane, his divorce attorney. Every message revealed a new piece of the plan. The pregnancy was not an accident. It was designed to establish her financial dependence. The affair with Jenny was ongoing, but discreet. The psychiatric evaluations were arranged in advance. Friendly doctors, leading questions, manufactured evidence, and the custody claim. That was the centerpiece. A child born to an unstable mother. Documented mental health concerns. Prenatal depression. Hormonal instability. Every expert paid. Every conclusion predetermined. Margot scrolled to the earliest email, dated 8 months ago. Subject line, timeline for separation, post-birth strategy. She read it aloud in a whisper. A child will establish her financial dependence. We proceed with divorce once she's postpartum and vulnerable. Custody claim citing hormonal instability becomes viable. The pregnancy, her baby, her daughter, he had planned it all. He had touched her with calculation, smiled at her with strategy, celebrated her pregnancy, knowing it was the first step toward destroying her. I'm not crazy. I felt something wrong. I asked him directly. He looked me in the eyes and lied. Margot closed her eyes. She pressed her hands against her belly. The baby kicked. Once, twice, a rhythm like a heartbeat. A message from daughter to mother. I found it, Margot whispered. I found everything. She printed the emails, all of them, pages and pages of evidence that her marriage had been a performance, that her husband was a predator wearing a smile. Then she went deeper. Bank statements, property records, a condo in the Caymans purchased 3 years ago, an apartment in Jenny's name bought with funds from their joint account, a trust set up for Preston's benefit with assets he had never disclosed. She printed those too. The door opened behind her. What are you doing? Preston's voice, cold, controlled. Margot did not turn around. Getting my things. In my office? On my computer? Our computer. Community property. Just like everything else you've been hiding. She heard him take the step closer. The familiar click of his expensive shoes on the hardwood floor. I'm calling security. Go ahead. I'll be done in 5 minutes. You're not supposed to be here, Margot. I could have you arrested for trespassing. Now she turned. Slowly, her belly made the movement awkward, but she faced him without flinching. This is my home, she said. For 5 more years, it's my home. I looked up the law. I know my rights. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, uncertainty. He had not expected resistance. You need to leave, he said. I need to pack. She turned back to the computer, collected the papers from the printer. I'll be gone in 10 minutes. He stood there, watching her. She could feel his gaze on the back of her neck, the weight of his attention. Once she had craved that attention. Now it felt like a threat. "This won't change anything," Preston said. "My lawyers are the best in the state. Whatever you think you've found, it won't matter." Margot slid the papers into a folder, tucked the folder under her arm, walked toward the door, toward him. He did not move. She had to pass within inches of him. She could smell his cologne, the same scent he had worn on their wedding day, the scent that now made her stomach turn. "Your lawyers are very good," she agreed, "but they made a mistake." "What mistake?" She stopped, looked up at him, 8 months pregnant, exhausted, terrified, but her voice was steady. "They assumed I was stupid," she said. "Everyone assumed I was stupid, including you." She walked past him, down the stairs, out the front door. Darcy was waiting in her car on the street. Margot climbed in, set the folder on her lap, breathed. "Did you get everything?" Darcy asked. Margot touched her grandmother's ring, felt the weight of the papers against her legs, thought about everything she had learned. "I got enough," she said. "More than enough." Darcy started the car. They drove away from the Whitmore estate for the second time that day. This time, Margot did not look back. The sun had fully set. The streets were dark, but somewhere inside her, something was beginning to glow. Not hope, not yet, but the first spark of something that might become hope, or might become fury. She had 7 months of lies documented on paper. She had bank accounts and hidden properties and premeditated manipulation. She had everything she needed to fight back. Now she just needed to figure out how. 7 years ago, she had been someone else entirely. Margot sat in Darcy's small apartment at 3 in the morning. Sleep would not come. The couch was comfortable enough. The blankets were warm, but her mind raced through memories like a film playing too fast. Harvard Law School. The acceptance letter had arrived on a Tuesday. She remembered the exact shade of blue sky through her apartment window. She remembered dropping to her knees on the kitchen floor. She remembered calling her grandmother and crying into the phone. "I knew you could do it," her grandmother had said. "You've always been the smartest person in any room. Now the world will know it too." Those words had carried Margot through 3 grueling years. The all-night study sessions, the crushing competition, the moments when she wanted to quit, and the determination that pushed her forward. She graduated first in her class. Professor Vivian Hargrove had shaken her hand at the ceremony, looked her in the eyes, said words Margot had never forgotten. "You have the sharpest legal mind I've seen in 20 years. Don't waste it." Margot had not planned to waste it. She had 3 job offers, top firms, salaries that seemed obscene to a girl who had grown up watching her single mother stretch every paycheck. Then she met Preston at a charity gala. He was charming. He was confident. He made her feel seen in a way no one ever had. "What do you do?" he asked. They were standing by the bar. His eyes never left her face. "I'm about to start at Morrison and Associates. Corporate litigation." "Impressive. You must be brilliant." "I am," she said. It was true. She was not yet in the habit of hiding it. He laughed. A warm sound. "I like a woman who knows her own worth." He said that. Those exact words. Margot remembered them now like a cruel joke. "I like a woman who knows her own worth." And then he spent 7 years systematically teaching her she had none. The erosion was slow. So slow she did not notice it happening. First, she postponed her bar exam. The wedding planning consumed everything. Preston's mother had specific ideas about how a Whitmore wedding should look. Margot did not have time to study. "You can take it next year," Preston said. "What's the rush?" Then she did not sit for the bar at all. She was helping Preston launch his new company. He needed her at events, at dinners. On his arm, smiling, making small talk with investors who called her Mrs. Whitmore and never asked what she did. "You're too valuable to be stuck in some office," Preston told her. "You're my partner, my secret weapon." She believed him. She wanted to believe him, then she stopped mentioning her career altogether. His mother once said, at a family dinner, "It's so nice that Margot doesn't need to work. Preston provides everything." Margot smiled. She was good at smiling by then. Inside, something small and sharp turned over. A splinter of doubt she would not examine for years. She remembered the exact moment she stopped being herself. It was a Tuesday. He had asked her to skip her bar exam study session for a client dinner. She said yes. She said yes to everything, until yes became silence, and silence became invisible. Margot shifted on Darcy's couch. The baby kicked. She pressed her hand against her belly and whispered to her daughter, "I'm going to do better for you. I promise. I'm going to remember who I was, who I still am, somewhere." She got up, walked to the closet where she had stored the boxes from the estate. 3 boxes, clothes, jewelry, and something else, something she had almost forgotten. Behind the baby clothes, in a box she had carried through 3 moves, she found it, her law school diploma, still in the frame. She had been afraid to hang it, afraid of what Preston would say, afraid he would call her ambitious, like it was a disease. She held it now, read the words she had earned with 3 years of her life. Harvard Law School. Margot Elise Brennan, Doctor of Jurisprudence, summa cum laude. The paper had yellowed slightly, but the gold seal still gleamed. The signatures were still crisp. The achievement was still real. She had buried this woman, folded her up like an old dress and tucked her away in a box. But she had not destroyed her, not entirely. Margot carried the diploma to the window. The city lights glittered beyond the glass. Somewhere out there, Preston was sleeping in their bed, Jenny beside him, probably. He thought he had won. He thought she was nothing. She was not nothing. She had never been nothing. The baby kicked again. 3 quick movements, like agreement. "I used to speak 4 languages," Margot whispered. "French, Spanish, Italian, German. When was the last time anyone asked me about that? When was the last time I offered?" She had made herself small, acceptable, decorative. She had trimmed away every sharp edge until she fit perfectly into the mold of a billionaire's wife. But the edges were still there, just hidden, just waiting. The sky began to lighten. Dawn approached. Margot had not slept at all. She did not feel tired. She felt awake, more awake than she had been in years. Darcy emerged from the bedroom around 7. She found Margot at the kitchen table, papers spread everywhere. A notebook filled with handwriting, a cup of decaf coffee growing cold. "Have you slept at all?" Darcy asked. "No." "Is that healthy for the baby?" "Probably not, but I needed to think." Darcy sat down across from her, looked at the papers, bank statements, legal documents, printouts from Preston's computer, and something else. A thick book with a worn spine, Civil Procedure 5th edition. "Where did you get that?" Darcy asked. "One of my boxes. I kept all my textbooks." "Why?" Margot looked at her friend. "I don't know. Maybe some part of me always knew." Darcy picked up the notebook, read the first page. Her eyebrows rose. "Margot, this looks like a legal strategy." "It is. I thought you never took the bar." "I didn't. But I spent 3 years learning how to think like a lawyer. That doesn't just disappear." Margot pulled the notebook back, flipped to a page covered in dense notes. Asset discovery requirements, community property law, fraud, penalties for financial non-disclosure. "He hid millions," Margot said. "Real estate, bank accounts, Trusts, all undisclosed in our marriage, all evidence of fraud. So you hire a lawyer and use it. No one will take my case. I called 3 firms yesterday. Every one of them backed off when they heard the name Whitmore. That's not legal. It's not about legality. It's about power. Preston's family has donated to every major law firm in the state. His mother sits on charity boards with half the judges in this district. No one wants to take that on. Darcy's face hardened. So what are you going to do? Margot picked up another document, a form she had found online at 4 in the morning. Pro se appearance, self-representation in divorce proceedings. I'm going to represent myself, she said. Darcy stared at her. Margot, you're 8 months pregnant. You've never practiced law. Your husband has an army of attorneys. I know. This is insane. Probably. Margot set down the form. But I'm not giving up my daughter. I'm not letting him paint me as an unfit mother. I'm not disappearing quietly so he can keep everything he stole. And you think you can do this alone? Margot touched her diploma. The gold seal caught the morning light. I graduated first in my class, she said. Professor Hargrove called me the finest legal mind she had seen in 20 years. I've spent 7 years forgetting that. But I remember now. She remembered everything. Every case study she had analyzed, every argument she had constructed, every night she had stayed up reading precedents until the words blurred together. Preston had married her for her beauty, her compliance, her willingness to disappear. He had never bothered to read her resume. That was his mistake. I need to go to the courthouse today, Margot continued. File my response to his petition. Request an extension for discovery. Start building my case. At least let me come with you. You have a shift. I'll call in sick. Margot shook her head. Save your sick days. I'm going to need you for the hard parts. Harder than this? Margot smiled. It felt strange on her face, like a muscle she had forgotten how to use. This is just the beginning, she said. The courthouse was older than Margot expected. Marble floors worn smooth by decades of footsteps, wood paneling darkened with age, the smell of paper and old books, and something that might have been justice, or might have been dust. She stood in line at the clerk's window, 8.5 months pregnant, wearing the nicest maternity dress she owned, carrying a folder full of documents she had prepared the night before. The clerk was a woman in her 60s with gray hair and kind eyes. She looked at Margot's belly, looked at the papers, looked back at Margot. Pro se appearance? She asked. Yes. You understand you'll be representing yourself against counsel? I understand. The clerk hesitated. The opposing party in this case, that's Preston Whitmore III? Yes. His lawyer is Mitchell Crane. I'm aware. The clerk's expression shifted. Something like sympathy crossed her face. Ma'am, Mr. Crane has never lost a divorce case in this county. His firm has resources you can't possibly match. I know. And you still want to proceed pro se? Margot thought about her daughter. The baby she had not yet met but already loved more than anything. The child Preston wanted to take from her. The future he wanted to destroy. Yes, she said. I want to proceed. The clerk stamped her papers, filed her appearance, gave her a court date for the preliminary hearing. Good luck, she said, and she sounded like she meant it. Margot walked out of the courthouse into the afternoon sun. Her phone buzzed immediately. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Whitmore, Mitchell Crane here. My client is prepared to offer generous terms for an uncontested divorce. I suggest we meet to discuss. She read the message twice. Generous terms. That meant they were worried. That meant they had not expected her to fight. She typed back, I'll see you in court. The reply came instantly. You're making a mistake. Think of your child. Margot deleted the conversation, blocked the number. She would not be intimidated by text message. The next 2 days passed in a blur of preparation. She read every document Preston's lawyers had filed, analyzed every claim, identified every weakness. The psychological evaluation was the linchpin of their case. Without it, they had no basis for the custody claim. But the evaluation was full of leading questions and predetermined conclusions. Any competent judge would see through it, unless the judge was not competent or not impartial. Margot researched the assigned judge, Vivian Hargrove. The name struck her like a bell. Her professor from Harvard, the woman who had told her not to waste her talent. For a moment, hope flared, a familiar face, someone who knew what she was capable of. Then reality settled back in. Judges were supposed to be impartial. Professor Hargrove might not remember her, and even if she did, that memory could cut either way. Margot pushed the thought aside. She could not control who judged her case. She could only control how she presented it. The preliminary hearing arrived faster than she expected. She dressed carefully. Navy blue dress, low heels, hair pulled back. Professional, but not severe. Sympathetic, but not weak. The courtroom was smaller than she had imagined. A few rows of wooden benches, a raised platform for the judge, 2 tables facing front, one for each party. Mitchell Crane was already seated when she arrived. He was tall, silver-haired, perfectly groomed. He wore a suit that cost more than Margot's rent. His briefcase probably cost more than her car. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said as she approached, "I hoped we might reach an agreement before this became necessary." "We won't," she replied. "My client is concerned about your mental state. The stress of litigation could affect your pregnancy. Your client should have thought about that before serving me divorce papers at my baby shower." Crane's expression did not change, but something flickered in his eyes. Calculation, reassessment. "You seem different than I expected," he said. "I'm sure I do." Preston arrived moments later. He swept into the courtroom like he owned it, which, in a sense, he did. His family's money had touched everything in this building. He did not look at Margot. He sat beside his lawyer, adjusted his cuffs, waited. Judge Hargrove entered. Everyone rose. Margot watched the older woman take her seat. Gray hair, sharp eyes, the same face from 7 years ago, with deeper lines and a heavier weight of authority. Did she recognize Margot? Impossible to tell. Her expression revealed nothing. "This is a preliminary hearing in the matter of Whitmore versus Whitmore," Judge Hargrove announced. "Petition for dissolution of marriage and custody determination. Mr. Crane, you represent the petitioner?" "I do, Your Honor." "And the respondent is appearing pro se?" Margot stood. "Yes, Your Honor." Judge Hargrove's gaze rested on her for a long moment, still unreadable. "Very well. Mr. Crane, your opening." What followed was devastating. Crane painted a picture of an unstable woman, prone to emotional outbursts, suffering from severe prenatal depression, documented by multiple mental health professionals, a danger to herself and her unborn child. He read aloud from the psychological evaluation. Margot sounded broken, paranoid, delusional. The words cut deeper because they were designed to. Every phrase crafted for maximum damage. In the gallery, a woman scribbled notes. Society columnist. Margot recognized her from charity event. By tomorrow, this would be public. The Whitmore divorce, the unstable wife. Preston listened with his head slightly bowed. The picture of a concerned husband, a victim of his wife's instability. A man who only wanted what was best for his child. Margot watched him and felt something shift inside her. The last remnants of love. The last faint hope that this was a misunderstanding. All of it burned away like morning fog. She had built a life that did not belong to her. She had painted herself into corners with smiles. She had made herself small so he would feel big. But she was not small. She had just forgotten. Your Honor, Crane concluded, given the documented mental health concerns, we request that Mrs. Whitmore undergo additional psychiatric evaluation before the custody hearing, and we request that she be prohibited from accessing the marital residence or any shared assets pending the outcome of these proceedings. Judge Hargrove turned to Margot. Mrs. Whitmore. Response? Margot stood. Her legs felt steady. Her voice felt clear. Your Honor, I request a continuance. I am 8 months pregnant and representing myself against experienced counsel. I need time to properly respond to the petitioner's discovery requests and to gather my own evidence. Objection, Crane said. This is simply a delay tactic by an unstable individual. The respondent has a right to adequate time for preparation, Judge Hargrove said. How long do you need, Mrs. Whitmore? 7 days, Your Honor. Granted. We'll reconvene next Tuesday. Mr. Crane, I'll rule on your motions at that time. The gavel fell. The hearing was over. 7 days. 7 days to build a case. 7 days to unlearn helplessness. 7 days to remember who she was before she became someone's wife. Margot gathered her papers. Her hands were shaking slightly, but she had done it. She had stood in a courtroom and faced them down. Preston passed her on his way out. He paused, leaned close. This is embarrassing, Margot, he murmured. For both of us. Just accept the settlement. It's more than you deserve. She looked at him. The man she had married, the man she had loved, the man who had systematically dismantled her sense of self. I'll see you in 7 days, she said. He left without another word. Crane followed. The courtroom emptied. Judge Hargrove remained at her bench. She was reviewing documents, not looking at Margot. Margot hesitated. She should leave. There was nothing more to do here. But the judge spoke, softly, without looking up. Mrs. Whitmore, a word of advice. Margot stopped. You have 7 days, Judge Hargrove continued. I suggest you use them wisely. Mr. Crane is very good at what he does. You'll need to be better. She still did not look up. Her voice betrayed nothing. Margot nodded, even though the judge could not see it. Thank you, Your Honor. She walked out of the courthouse. The sun was setting. The air smelled like autumn. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell rang. 7 days. She could do a lot in 7 days. The war had begun. The bank sent the notice on day 2. Account frozen. Access denied. Pending resolution of divorce proceedings. Margot stared at the email on her phone. The $200 in her personal savings account. Gone, not spent, just frozen. Inaccessible, worthless. She did the math she already knew would not add up. No income, no assets, no access to the money she had helped Preston accumulate over 7 years of marriage. She was 8 months pregnant with a billionaire's baby, and she could not afford lunch. Darcy found her sitting on the bathroom floor that evening, back against the tub, legs stretched out, phone in her hand. How bad? Darcy asked. Everything's frozen. Everything. Even your savings? Especially my savings. He got a temporary order, financial preservation pending divorce. It sounds so reasonable when you say it like that. Darcy sat down beside her. The bathroom was small. Their shoulders touched. What are you going to do? I don't know. I can't hire a lawyer. I can barely buy groceries. I have some money saved. I'm not taking your money. You're sleeping on my couch. You're already taking my hospitality. What's a few hundred more? Margot shook her head. This isn't your fight. The hell it isn't. Darcy's voice hardened. I've been watching him tear you apart for years. I've been watching you shrink. I kept quiet because I was a coward. I'm done being quiet. She pulled out her phone, transferred money, showed Margot the screen. $500, Darcy said. For food and court fees and whatever else you need. Pay me back when you win. If I win. Win. Darcy's jaw was set. When you win. Margot wanted to argue. She wanted to refuse, but her stomach growled, and her back ached, and her baby kicked, and she realized she did not have the luxury of pride. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me, beat him. The next 5 days blurred together. Margot worked 18 hours a day. She cross-referenced Preston's financial disclosures against public filings. She searched property records and corporate registrations and SEC documents. She built a timeline of every suspicious transaction. The numbers never matched. They never came close to matching. Preston had disclosed $2 million in liquid assets. Public records suggested closer to $15 million. He had disclosed one property. Beyond the family estate, records showed 6, including the Cayman condo and Jenny's apartment. Fraud. Clear and documented fraud. But Margot needed more. She needed witnesses. She needed corroboration. She needed something that would hold up against Crane's objections and Preston's denials. On day 4, an unexpected visitor knocked on Darcy's door. Theodore Whitmore, Preston's father, 71 years old, silver hair, steel eyes. The man who had built the Whitmore fortune before his son learned to spend it. Margot opened the door and found him standing in the hallway. He wore a cashmere coat despite the mild weather. He held a cane he did not seem to need. May I come in? He asked. Margot hesitated. This man was her enemy. His family had orchestrated her destruction. His wife had signed the divorce papers that ended her marriage. Why? She asked. Because I believe we have interests in common. She stepped aside, let him enter, watched him survey the tiny apartment with an expression that revealed nothing. Darcy Callahan's place, he said. The nurse? Preston mentioned her. He said she was a bad influence on you. She's my best friend. I'm sure she is. Teddy settled into the only armchair. His movements were slow but precise. Sit down, Margot. Please. She sat on the couch across from him. 8.5 months pregnant, exhausted, terrified. But she kept her spine straight and her gaze level. What do you want? She asked. To talk? Nothing more. Nothing binding. Then talk. Teddy studied her for a long moment. His eyes were like Preston's, cold and calculating. But there was something else beneath the ice. Something that might have been respect. I built that company, he said finally. 40 years of my life, I built it for my grandchildren, for the future, not for my son's entertainment. I'm not sure what this has to do with me. Everything. Teddy leaned forward. Preston is reckless. He spends money I earned on mistresses and toys and legal battles against pregnant women. He hides assets from the tax authorities and lies to the courts. He will eventually destroy everything I created. And I can't stop him directly. He controls the board now. He's pushed me into retirement. All I can do is watch. Margot began to understand. But the courts can stop him. Perhaps. If someone brought evidence of financial misconduct, that would be inconvenient for my son, but perhaps necessary, for the company's sake, for the family's sake. Margot's heart was racing. She kept her voice steady. What kind of evidence? Teddy reached into his coat, produced a thin folder, set it on the coffee table between them. Nothing I could testify to directly, he said. That would be too obvious. But bank records have a way of coming to light during divorce proceedings, especially when the opposing party knows where to look. Margot did not touch the folder. Not yet. Why? She asked. Why help me? Because you're carrying my grandchild. Because my son is a disappointment. Because you were smarter than all of us, and we buried you anyway. He stood. Slowly, the cane clicked against the floor. I'm not your ally, he said. Remember that. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for my legacy, but our interests happen to align. He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the knob. I heard you were first in your class at Harvard, he said. My son never told me that. He never mentioned it once. I had to find out from old news clippings. He didn't think it mattered. He was wrong. Teddy opened the door. Use what I've given you. Make it count. He left without another word. Margot sat motionless for a long moment. Then she reached for the folder, opened it, read, bank records, transfer histories, account numbers she had never seen before, amounts that staggered her, evidence of systematic fraud stretching back years. Teddy Whitmore had just handed her a weapon, not out of kindness, out of cold calculation, but a weapon was a weapon. She made a list that night. Everyone who had underestimated her. The column was long. Preston, Vivian, Mitchell Crane, the doctors who declared her unstable, the lawyers who refused her case, the clerk who wished her good luck like it was a eulogy. At the bottom, she added one more name, her own. Then she crossed it out. Day 7 arrived with rain, the kind of steady downpour that soaked through everything. Margot stood under the courthouse awning, watching water stream from the roof. Inside, her future waited, her daughter's future. Everything she had worked for in the past week. She checked her bag one more time. Evidence folders, witness lists, the documents Teddy had given her, carefully sanitized of any connection to their source. Everything in order, everything ready. Darcy had offered to come. Margot had refused. This was her battle, her arena. She walked inside. The courtroom was more crowded this time. Word had spread. The Whitmore divorce. The pregnant wife representing herself. Good entertainment for the society columnists and the curious. Preston arrived with his usual entourage. Mitchell Crane, a paralegal carrying boxes of documents. 2 associates who looked barely old enough to practice law. A show of force, a display of resources. Preston glanced at Margot as he passed. His expression was amused, almost pitying. Still going through with this? He asked. Yes. You look tired. I've been busy. He shook his head, like a parent dealing with a stubborn child. This is going to end badly for you, Margot. You know that, right? I know a lot of things. Something in her voice made him pause, just for a second. Then the amusement returned. Well, he said, this should be interesting. Judge Hargrove entered. Everyone rose. The proceeding began. Crane went first again. He presented the psychiatric evaluation in detail. He called a witness, the doctor who had examined Margot. A small man with glasses and nervous hands who testified to her instability, her paranoia, her unfitness for motherhood. Margot listened, made notes, waited. When her turn came, she rose slowly, 8.5 months pregnant, moving carefully. The gallery watched with a mixture of sympathy and morbid curiosity. Dr. Morrison, she said, how long did you spend with me during our evaluation session? The doctor shifted. Approximately 2 hours. 2 hours. And in those 2 hours, did you ask me about my educational background? I don't recall. Did you ask me about my career history? That wasn't relevant to the evaluation. Did you ask me about my relationship with my husband before drawing conclusions about my mental state? Mrs. Whitmore, the evaluation followed standard protocols. Standard protocols. Margot picked up a document. Doctor, I'm looking at your billing records for this evaluation. You charged $3,000 for 2 hours of work. Is that correct? That's my standard rate for forensic evaluations. And who paid that rate? The doctor hesitated. The petitioner. My husband paid you $3,000 to evaluate me, and you found exactly what he wanted you to find. Is that correct? Crane stood. Objection. Counsel is badgering the witness. I'm not counsel, Margot said. I'm the respondent, and I'm asking relevant questions about bias. Judge Hargrove's expression remained neutral. The objection is overruled. The witness will answer. Dr. Morrison's face had gone red. I conducted an impartial evaluation. Did you? Margot held up another document. Doctor, I have here your professional calendar for the week before my evaluation. 3 of your appointments were with law firms that regularly represent the Whitmore family. Is that coincidence? I have many clients. 3 meetings with the same law firm in 1 week before evaluating their opponent in a divorce case. Margot let the words hang. I have no further questions. She sat down. The gallery murmured. Crane's face had tightened. Your Honor, Crane said, the witness has been improperly maligned. Dr. Morrison is a respected professional. The respondent raised legitimate concerns about potential bias, Judge Hargrove replied. I'll weigh the evaluation accordingly. Next witness. The morning continued. Crane called character witnesses, Preston's employees, his business partners. Each one painted the same picture. A devoted husband, a caring father-to-be, a man victimized by his wife's mental decline. Margot cross-examined each one, patiently, precisely. She asked about their relationship with Preston, their financial connections to his companies, their understanding of the word impartial. By noon, the pattern was clear. Every witness had ties to Preston's money. Every witness had reasons to say what he wanted them to say. After lunch, Margot presented her case. She started with the financial disclosures, the assets Preston had claimed, the assets she had documented, the gap between them. Your Honor, she said, the petitioner disclosed $2 million in liquid assets. I have evidence of at least $15 million hidden in offshore accounts and undisclosed properties. She presented the bank records, the property deeds, the trust documents. Each piece of evidence, carefully organized, clearly explained. Crane objected repeatedly. Relevance, foundation, authentication. Judge Hargrove overruled each objection. Then Margot turned to the custody claim. The petitioner argues that I am an unfit mother, she said. He bases this on a psychological evaluation conducted by a doctor paid from his personal funds, a doctor with documented ties to his legal team. She held up the emails from Preston's computer. But I have evidence that the petitioner's real motivation is not concern for our child. It's financial control. She read the email's subject line aloud. Timeline for separation. Post-birth strategy. Preston's face changed. The amusement was gone. This email, Margot continued, describes a plan to use my pregnancy against me, to establish my financial dependence, to create documentation of mental instability, to proceed with divorce, and I quote, once she's postpartum and vulnerable. The gallery had gone silent. Even the society columnist had stopped writing. My husband did not want a child with me, Margot said. He wanted a weapon against me. He used my pregnancy as a trap. He manufactured evidence of mental illness to justify taking my daughter away. She set down the papers. I'm not unfit to be a mother. I'm just married to a man who can't control me anymore, and he hates that. Crane rose. Your Honor, this is outrageous. These documents are unauthenticated. Their origin is unknown. Mrs. Whitmore has no legal training to properly present evidence. I have plenty of legal training, Margot said quietly. What? She reached into her bag, pulled out a framed document, held it up for the court to see. Harvard Law School, summa cum laude. First in my class, Divi, Tukstoshi, Septin Padsmit. The room went completely still. Preston stared at her. His face was pale. You never told me, he said. The words slipped out before